Good morning, welcome to Nigeria Now, showing on your digital first Pan-African news network, TOS Television. My name is Merciful Ajinabo. On the newspapers this morning, we have big stories, and we begin with the Blueprint newspaper. And the big story is, I will hand over to Nigerians elected choice in 2023, says Buhari. And we have three riders underneath the story. The first, orders security chiefs to eliminate terrorists, secure the country. The second rider says, see 2023 as opportunity for peaceful coexistence, Sultan tells Nigerians. And the third, urges citizens to accept any presidential mandate as Allah's choice. That is on page 6 of the Blueprint newspaper. From the very top, WPFD, media freedom under attack in Nigeria, coming from NGE. Then beside the picture of the day, 2023, SNBLF, Capet, Ango Abdullahi, others over zoning. The writer says, hold PDP responsible if Southeast fails to get ticket. That's coming from Okechukwu. On the lower banner, federal government to rake in $2.06 billion revenue from new project. That is on page 22 of the Blueprint newspaper. Then the headlines just under the picture of the day there, we see Kaduna Shite alleges loss of member, arrest of 78 others by police. On page 22, tougher month ahead for Nigeria, inflation rates to hit 16.1%. And that's coming from IMF. And then victims of Kaduna train attack will safely return, reunite with families, says Buhari. Mayday, Oyetola's approval of 7 demands excite Osun workers. That's on page 14. On page 23, AFDB, Afrexim, AFC, others to help Africa survive food, energy crisis, coming from Moody. And Workers' Day Aviation Unions lament political interference set for shutdown. That is on the Blueprint newspaper. On the Daily Independent, the big story, Buhari not part of plot to draft Jonathan into presidential race, says presidency. And from the very top, this is from further external borrowings, Anglican Synod advises federal government. Death toll rises to 10 in Lagos building collapse. The writer says, incident becoming embarrassing, says Buhari. And then the lower banner, if zoning is buried, Nigeria is buried. Southern Middle-Belt leaders tell Northern elders. And that's on the front page right there. We must cut down on cost of governance, says Obi on page 7. On Kaduna train attack, federal government working on safe return of abducted passengers, says Buhari. That's on the Daily Independent newspaper. On the Punch, presidency, APC may field northern candidate awaits PDP primary. That is on page 2. The writer says, presidential ticket, God will show us the way, says Lawan. Blame PDP if North retains power, says APC chieftain. Nigerian suffering deserve new leadership, PDP spokesperson says. And that's on the big story there on the Punch, page 2 of the Punch newspaper. From the very top, Nigeria's crude production crashed by 1.2 million barrels in April, says OPEC on page 21 of the Punch. On Eid al-Fitr, security beefed up as Buhari prays in military barracks. That's on page 7 on the Punch. Besides that, striking ASU members shouldn't be paid, says federal government. And then on page 21, National Assembly workers reject staggered arrears payment, issue strike notice. And the lower banner there says, that's under the picture of the day, tears as Corpa 9 tenants die in Lagos building collapse, Buhari lament. That's on the Punch newspaper. On the Vanguard, the big story, Muslim clerics, Christian Association of Nigeria, Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria attack APC PDP on zoning. That's on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. From the very top, train attack, Buhari tasked NRC to set up situation room to coordinate rescue effort. That's on page 2. Besides that, gunmen behead 2 soldiers, kill policemen, 4 others in Anambra, Imo State. Besides that, World Press Freedom Day, editors say media freedom under attack in Nigeria. The writer says, be mindful of sponsored political news, Buhari tells media. That's on page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper. The lower banner says, Buhari to security chiefs, it's your duty to find terrorists, eliminate them. That's on page 6 of the Vanguard. And then 2023, my presidential ambition still speculation, says Lawan on page 15. Besides that, LNG market expects deficit in 2024 despite Nigeria's Train 7 other project. That's a report there on page 24. Eid al-Fitr, governors seek prayers for Nigeria's security unity. That story is on page 14 of the Vanguard newspaper. Besides that, we see 2023, I'll end sharing formula, entrenched production formula if elected, says Peter Obi on page 9 of the Vanguard. Just underneath that, SFTAS, federal government pays state $138.5 million. That story is on page 4 of the Vanguard newspaper. On the Daily Trust, the big story, APC presidential ticket, senators divided over move to pick Lawan as consensus candidate. Senators divided over moves to pick Lawan as consensus candidate. That's the big story right there on page 5 of the Daily Trust. From the very top, despite non-remittance by NNPC, FAAC shares 1.9 trillion naira in 3 months. And besides that, Kaduna train attack, why we're finding it difficult to rescue captives, says Buhari. The lower banner says 10 bodies recovered from collapsed Lagos building. That's on Daily Trust newspaper. Talking business on Business Day, the big story, Nigerians cut down on protein as inflation bites. That's the big story there, continues on page 30 of the Business Day newspaper. Besides that, of course, World Press Freedom Day, Nigerian media under digital siege. That's the big the story beside the big story there on Business Day newspaper. On the Leadership newspaper, the big story is despite PMB's marching orders to service chiefs, many Nigerians still trapped in captivity. Bandits prowl the north. That's on page 4 of the Leadership newspaper. From the very top, World Press Freedom Day, media freedom under attack in Nigeria, says editors. Media freedom under attack in Nigeria. Besides that, PDP postpones NEC meeting, defers decision on zoning till May 10th. That's on page 20 of the Leadership newspaper. Beside the banner headline there, my presidential ambition, mere speculation, says Lawan, and death toll in Lagos building collapse rises to 10. State of the Nation, Khan declares 3 days prayers, cautions politicians, on page 6 of the Leadership newspaper. The next one is the Nation newspaper, and the big story is terrorists use captives as human shield, says Buhari. 2 riders. The first, service chiefs should locate, eliminate criminals. IG deploys surveillance choppers. That's the front page right there of the Nation newspaper. From the very top, Nigeria loses 5.04 trillion naira yearly to heather farmer conflict. That story is on page 23 of the Nation newspaper. And of course, the Nigerian Tribune big stories. Clark Adebanjo Obiozo to NEF. Dumping zoning will kill, bury Nigeria. That's on page 2. The writer says, God will show the way Lawan on purported presidential ambition. And Buhari says, I will hand over to anyone Nigerians elect. Beside the picture of the day, gunmen strike again in Anambra, kill policeman, 6 others. And Buhari tweets for first time since federal government lifted ban on Twitter. That story is on page 8 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. PDP heads for appeal court overruling on conduct of primary election. That story is on page 23 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. And then we see 10 killed, 23 rescued in Lagos, 3-story building collapse, 4-year-old female corps member among casualties. That's on page 27 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. And of course, those are the newspapers for this morning. You can always stay updated on our website, www.tostvnetwork.com. And our social media handle is at TOSTV Network on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Many thanks for joining us today on Nigeria Now. My name is Merciful Ajinimo. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.